Forget Unreal, forget Unity, forget any game engine. I made a game in Houdini. Houdini, a 3D software. It's definitely not the best game ever, but exists and it's working. Imagine you are working and you need to send a really long simulation and you need to wait. So what do? You just open this babe up and you can play for hours. In a dark room. You are a lonely rubber toy. You can drift around, but you are being followed by a giant big head. And if they come close to you, you're gonna start shrinking in a crippling anxiety until you get so small and helpless that you die a lonely death. That's the premise of the greatest Houdini Big Head Wars 2000. That's my game. Okay, this game sounds way more complex than it is. How I've got to this point? Boy, I have no idea how I got to this point. After watching a YouTube video about how they made Doom in the past, and that Doom wasn't actually 3D, it was a 2D platformer rendered in 3D. And I could stop thinking about that, and then when I see I was doing a game. And the funny thing, I'm not even a good gamer. I feel guilty when I play games. I feel that I'm wasting my time. So I think the solution for me was to make a game while complaining I don't have time to play games. To play the game, I mapped a MIDI controller to the MIDI input from Houdini. If you want to know a bit more about the MIDI controller, you can wait for the end of the video. Control the character, you can press forward, backward, left, right, and also has a button to shoot the bullets. Increase the frame range of Houdini, and then just press play. The mechanics of the game are super easy. You walk around shooting all the pig heads, and if they come close to you, you're gonna receive hits, and those hits gonna make you smaller. When you reach a certain threshold, you're gonna die and gonna be game over. If the game is too easy, you can just increase the scatter node and add more pig heads. Also, you can play with the attributes to make Big Head come faster to you. To win the game, you just need to kill all the pig heads before the time that you set it before is over. And as always, I left the HIP files on the description so you can download, look to the scene, and who knows, if you want to make more levels, go for it. So how did you make the game, you ask? The first problem, Houdini has a memory of a goldfish. Doesn't remember the past, unless you tell to remember the past. Let's say you have 100 frames. To calculate the frame 100, you don't need to calculate the frame 1, frame 2, frame 3, frame 4, until frame 100. You can split all the frames, calculate on different computers. So if you have 100 computers, you're gonna take the time for one frame to calculate all the frames. You can also see that on threads on the computer. Let's say you have 8 threads on your computer, you can calculate 8 frames at the same time. You don't need the past to work in the future. Ooh. In Houdini you have DOPs, dynamics operators. Those DOPs, they remember the past. So let's say you have a destruction. You're gonna hit the wall and the wall gonna break. Of course you need the past because you need to remember that the wall got hit to be able to break the stuff. In that way you cannot split on multiple computers. That's why simulation sometimes is slow, because if you have 100 frames, you're gonna have to calculate 99 frames to calculate the 100. But okay, how you done a game if Houdini usually doesn't remember the past? Did you do in DOPs? No. Houdini has also a solver. Solver is a magic confusing beast on Houdini that remembers the past. You have a node called previous frame. And if you feed the previous frame to the current frame gonna remembers the previous frame. So with that, you're gonna have something similar to a game engine. Okay, it's not as similar, but it's the same logic. And with that, I made the game. Before I show the code and everything, make a disclaimer. I'm not a good coder. I'm a VFX artist, not the greatest, but somehow I managed to get a job in the industry. By no means that the right way to make a game in Houdini or that making a game in Houdini is the right way to do something. And okay, the only thing is I see always lots of people giving tutorials and you see those tutorials as that's the right way to do. And sometimes it's not the right way to do, but the person says in a way that, okay, this person knows what he's saying. So before you think, oh yeah, Marcos knows what he's saying, no, I don't know what I'm saying. I'm showing you how I managed to do, but it's definitely not the right way. Okay, that's your disclaimer. So I've made a point for the character. I added some attributes for the front, back, and rotation and shoot, connected those parameters to the chop network, and referenced them to the MIDI notes. Made a group for the character, made some points for the bullets. I draw a curve to make the level, and made a group called collision. On the level, I scattered some points, and those points will be the enemy. Some random normals, and that will be the movement of the character. So I added everything inside the solver, and all the solver for each frame, you're gonna read the previous frame and gonna add the normal to the movement of the character. So if the character is going straight, it's gonna multiply the normal to the movement forward, that is 1, and if it's back, will be -1. I'm using the XYZ dist to calculate the collision with the level and near points for collision with the enemies. If the enemies come close to the character, it starts adding a count. When this count increases, it goes to the P scale of the character. When it arrives to 100, P scale gonna be 0. The same collisions for the bullets, the same collisions for the enemies, and the enemies position collisions. Later, I grab those points and I split them. For each one, I'm gonna copy the geometry that I want. The test geometry of rubber toy for the character, the test geometry pig head for the enemies, and for the bullets, it's just a normal cone. When the P scale is below 0.8, it switches for a game over. I also added a sign function to make the character's wall kind of jumpy. When I was making the game, I was just using some keyframes to control the character. I was faking the gameplay, but it got to a point that, okay, I need to be able to control the character. And the way I got to control the character, do you guys remember one of my previous video where I used the MIDI out from Houdini to control my synth? If you haven't seen that, finish this video and you go to how I made Houdini play my DIY synth and watch that. It's a fun video. But going back, Houdini has the MIDI out, so of course has the MIDI in. I use a MIDI controller to control the character to play the game. First I was going to use the trusty keyboard. Then I remember, no, I cannot use this keyboard. When I was building my synth, before I bought this keyboard, I made my own MIDI controller. That's all made by me. Look at this beauty. My MIDI controller. Ooh, sexy MIDI controller. Sexy controller. What is the best way to control a game than with arcade buttons? So yeah, I can control my game with arcade buttons. Yay! So yeah, I hope you enjoy seeing my useless way of using my VFX know-how. And if you like this type of video, I have a video where I made Houdini plays my DIY scene. And yeah, watch any of my previous videos, subscribe to see bad VFX inventions using Houdini in the wrong way. So yeah, hope to see you soon.